Cool.
Okay.
Hello.
Let me just check my frame. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that looks
okay. Cool. We'll just have to just speak loud. 3, 2, 1.
2, 1. Checking connection.
Oh,
yay!
yes.
We're live. To give a quick rundown, we were originally going to do this across all platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. YouTube apparently needs 24 hours to prepare us to have a live.
Just so dumb.
TikTok, we don't have enough followers. We're not good enough for TikTok to do a live. So we're on Instagram. And we are filming for YouTube. We have a camera right here. Hi, camera. And it became a little bit more official because now we have a mic in front of us for the camera. This was just going to be like a casual thing, but we ended up having to get out like a bunch of Maryellen's equipment.
Which was touch and go for a second. But
yes.
We've pushed through. It's working.
Yeah, but we're here. And that's all that matters.
In Chattanooga.
Yes, in Chattanooga.
How wild is that?
This is my hometown.
Yes.
And Maryellen, as you guys know, has come all the way from Australia. Actually, technically, Chicago today.
Yes, that's true.
All the way from Chicago.
Yes, been there for like 5 days, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So we're here. So I guess we should get started. So what we're doing today is for the past 12 weeks, just under 12 weeks. I guess it's been 11 weeks technically at this point. But we've been going through the book, The Artist's Way. And we've been doing that with a book club on Discord. And by the way, if you're interested in joining a future book club, because we do plan to keep this going, join us on Discord. Our links are like in our Instagram bio and other places.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're there. So join us for future book clubs. But we've been going through The Artist's Way week by week, and we got our first
our first ever live on the live stream. I don't know who you are, but thank you. You're our favorite.
So to do like a grand finale, because we are just about done, and because Mel is in Chattanooga live and in person, we decided to do a full book review, and like share our takeaways from the book as a special little thing. So yes,
we're very excited. And you're going to take like the first half of the book-ish, and I'm going to take the last half of the book-ish.
Yes.
Some of our see, the problem is we're both very thorough people, and so we've like done all of our deep dives per chapter, but we're going to try and condense this into like the take-homes for you guys.
Yeah, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I have a lot of notes. I don't think I'm going to go through all of them because there's too many, but yeah, we are thorough, if nothing else. So, to start, we did want to just preface this book, kind of like summarize who it's for, like what you can expect from it for those who don't know, haven't heard of The Artist's Way. So, it's written by the author Julia Cameron. It was published in like the 90s, and it's gotten, I think it was probably pretty popular back then and has continued to be popular, but I've at least personally seen it like blow up more now that social media is like a really big thing. Like people are posting YouTube videos and Instagram posts talking about The Artist's Way. So I think it's blown up recently as well.
Yeah, I think she's sold like multiple millions of copies at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's actually
it's a success.
It's definitely successful.
Yeah. And she markets it as a guide to a creative recovery, but also with kind of a spiritual lens. So she equates creativity and spirituality. The subtitle on here, it's called The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. So it is marketed towards like people who want to discover and recover creatively, but I think it's good for a lot of different types of people. Like if you just need a boost in your creativity in general, whether or not you feel like you need to recover, like I think it provides a really good boost. I wrote down like all the people that I thought it would like be for. So obviously it's for people who maybe are feeling a little bit blocked as artists, but it's also for people who would never consider themselves to be artists and don't think they are creative. I think that's a prime audience for this book, because this book will show you that you are creative. For people who have no time for creative activities, that is us.
We'll touch on that later.
Yes, we've talked about it throughout the entire book. We're like, I have no time. And even for people who see creativity as only like one little section of their life, like this book will kind of open your mind in terms of what creativity can be to its fullest extent. And in just a very, very short summary. What the book is 12 weeks. It's kind of like a 12-week course. So there's 12 chapters. In each chapter are just the chapter itself, and then journal prompts, exercises, and tasks to do, like the full thing. It really is a course. Like a course is the best way to describe it.
For like $30 or something. Like you could easily pay thousands of dollars to do this like in a group, you know?
It's true. Yeah.
And I mean, we did it for free, but you could do it with a bunch of friends for $30. It's the price of the book.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, so much value.
Super good deal. Do you want to talk about morning pages and artist dates? That's the other key component of the book. Okay. What are they?
So Julia Cameron recommends 2 very specific rituals or habits that you're meant to like undertake every week. Or every day, actually. So the first one is morning pages, which is basically 3 pages of like stream of consciousness blah onto a page every morning. And she kind of, the way that she frames this is that often our creativity is blocked by our like self-doubt or with like the stress that we're going through or whatever. And often we're not even aware of that. And so just like blurting out stuff on a page, you often learn a lot about yourself. And I know that both of us have definitely learned a lot about ourselves over the last like 11 weeks.
Yeah, this book and like 3 others. Yeah, I filled 3 notebooks.
That's amazing, wow. And then the other thing is artist dates. So Julia Cameron really emphasizes the importance of play, the importance of just like relaxing and like enjoying the world around you as an artist, as something that is productive, even though it doesn't feel productive, but that's a whole other conversation. And so every week she encourages you to go on an artist date, which is basically something that you enjoy. It could be going getting ice cream, it could be going to a gallery, it could be just like journaling in the park, whatever. Just as time for yourself to get inspired by stuff, by life. So that's what you can expect from the book. It's very involved, but I think it needs to be. I think that's why I love the book so much. I like that it's not just a book that you read, it's a course that you go through. So we're going to talk about our favorite like takeaways and the things that we just felt like everybody should get out of this book. We wanted to share that with you guys in celebration of finishing the book. And this is both of our second time going through the book as well. Yeah. So we've had some time to like let these things kind of marinate. So first of all, I did just want to touch on like some overall takeaways, and did you have some as well that you wanted to share? Briefly, but I'll see if they fit in with yours. Okay. And if I have anything different, I'll add it.
Okay, sounds good. So I have some good overall takeaways that kind of like were throughout the entire book. The biggest one for me, or maybe 2 of the biggest ones. The first one is that creativity is our true nature. And that's a direct quote from the book. Another direct quote is the natural order of things. I didn't even finish writing the quote. Lovely. The natural order of things is to be creative, essentially. Like we are meant to be creative. And I think that's such a game changer for so many people because in the way that at least our society is now, how I perceive it, I don't really feel like that is something that is even remotely believed by most people. People see the creative types as like these people over here that do these particular jobs. And then there's other people that aren't creative. And so they do different jobs that aren't creative jobs. But like, it's a core part of our nature. So it's one of the biggest takeaways. And then the other one for me is that creativity is a spiritual practice. That was an eye-opener the first time I read the book, and still is like just so good and important to realize. She, throughout the book, it's written from kind of more of like a neutral spiritual mindset, but I really feel like depending on what religion you're from, I think you can kind of apply it to that religion or belief system. And we're both Christian, and we can both easily apply it to like our Christian beliefs. She says that creativity comes from the source, God, and that acting creatively is listening to God's voice and responding to it, like letting it impact you and what you put out into the world.
So I actually have a quote here, which is on the money for this. It's in the last chapter of the book, and she says, and I think this just pretty much sums up the whole book, especially the spiritual side. Our Creator made us creative. Our creativity is our gift from God. Our use of it is our gift to God. Accepting this bargain is the beginning of true acceptance. So anyway,
so good. There's so many good quotes. Like this book is a wealth of underlining opportunities.
Literally so many. Ridiculous.
Yeah, like just about every page has underlines, notes. She has really good quotes, really good ways of writing. I wrote artist dates and morning pages as some of my takeaways because these are things that she encourages you to do point blank period, like not just while you're reading the book, like after reading the book as well.
And also like they're not optional in her
yeah,
world.
She's like you have to do morning pages. She talks about morning pages so much and artist dates too, but I think even morning pages more often. She keeps bringing them up. She's like, and if you're doing morning pages, then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's fair. I think I think it's not good to like put too much pressure on yourself and like make yourself do them and then feel bad if you don't do them, like things like that. But I do think it is a really good practice, and I'm really trying. Now that the book is just about over for us, it'll be interesting to see if I keep them up. But I really want to keep them up. Because I think I have learned a lot about myself, and I think like some things that started out on the page have become reality, whether it's a conversation I needed to have or a project I wanted to do or something. Like if you start by writing it out and you kind of repeat that like a few mornings, it'll eventually come to some sort of resolution.
It'll just like rewire your brain. Like it's literally creating brain pathways, telling yourself something.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
which is really powerful.
Exactly.
I just want to like touch on that though, because we both mentioned that we have done this book before, or at least tried to do this book before.
Yeah.
And as you can probably tell by what we've said, it's very involved. There's a lot to this book. And in the past, and I'm really grateful, like, Darcie, your perspective on it, saying like, you know, morning pages is like Julia Cameron says you must do it, but you've been a lot more like relaxed about it, as have I, and you've kind of given me permission to do that, which has been awesome. In the past, I've found these practices as actual blocks in and of themselves. Julia Cameron talks a lot about like creative blocks, whether it's perfectionism or procrastination or a whole plethora of other things. And I have personally found like if I skip a day of morning pages, I get really like stressed and I just like give up entirely, you know what I mean? Which is perfectionism and stuff, but being really intentional about not doing that, I think, is so key. And I don't know if that, that's just a qualm I have maybe with the book.
And that's fair. Yeah, and I think I would be interested in what Julia Cameron would say to that. Yeah. You know? Like, I don't think she would think that was a good thing to let it, like, but she does harp on morning pages so often. I wonder if she would just be like, suck it up.
Look, probably.
But it's obviously, if it becomes a block, then, like, that's not good. And I think it's good that you recognize that and that you're able to, like, kind of take steps to hopefully change that. Yeah.
We'll see.
So those are my biggest takeaways. Did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
I would say, there's a few different things. One of the really big things that Julia Cameron emphasizes is the importance of trust. And Darcie and I have had long conversations about this, whether it's like fear of not having enough money or fear of being misunderstood or fear of like not being productive enough. There's like a million different fears that you could have around being an artist and being creative and like embracing your creativity. But really trusting God, trusting yourself, and trusting the creative process are huge themes in this book. And I feel like I'm not even going to do them justice to like dive in. Like you really have to read the book to like fully comprehend what she's talking about there. But there was one particular thing that I really liked. And like, as we mentioned before, both of us grew up in like Christian households, and with like religious backgrounds, there comes a lot of baggage regardless of what religion you're from. And I think both of us have struggled with this idea that like being creative is like a valuable thing for like society almost, like and struggling to believe that God would bless that. And Julia Cameron harps on and on and on about the fact that like God, if you really want to be creative and you really want to do something, leaning into that is actually what God wants for you, and he will bless that process, and like the universe is on your side kind of thing. That was really powerful.
That's a really good point. And I'm sitting here questioning because I think my priorities are like almost there when it comes to that, but when it gets hard when I have other things that have deadlines, like work, because I am an artist, I'm an active artist, and that's like my overall career, but that's not my main money-making job. And so like obviously sometimes I'll just prioritize my job over that because it just kind of needs to be, or I'll just prioritize, like I'm wedding planning right now, so I'll prioritize that over it. And so I do struggle with like prioritizing my creativity when I get busy, but I think I am kind of in a privileged position when it comes to that, because I am an artist, and being an artist, I recognize the value of feeding my creativity, because that's like where I want my life to go. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, what if I wasn't an artist? What if I wasn't an artist? Like, I think it would be harder to understand what Julia Cameron is saying and to believe it if you're not a creative person and you're an artist as well. And so I'm wondering, like, I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe it's easier for us than it would be, say, like, a doctor, or, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, it was actually something that Julia Cameron talks about really early on in the book, maybe chapter 1, chapter 2, is this idea of shadow professions, shadow jobs or something. I can't remember the exact term. But she talks about, like, how a teacher, like, say, an art teacher or a music teacher or something, what they really want to be is, like, a famous musician or a famous artist, but they become a teacher. And I feel like that kind of concept can be applied to lots of different professions. And a lot of people are really creative, but they just don't know it and they haven't got the language to put around it. And so, yeah, granted, there's probably a lot of people who would read this and be like, that's what? Like, I don't, what? But there'd also be a lot of people who read it and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I'm actually in a shadow profession and I want to be an artist and I've never been given permission to, like, say that before. So I don't know what the proportion breakdown would be, but I'd say there'd be a lot more people in that category than we might expect.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking, like, because I can kind of, with, again, our collective obsession with being productive, I can I could put art time in the middle of my day, and I do struggle with it a little bit, but I struggle with it less because I can still kind of say this is productive for my future. I'm just like, if somebody's a shadow artist, I guess maybe, yeah, for their future, I don't know. I'm, you know, all I can do is deal with what I have and what my life looks like right now, and maybe not worry so much about what somebody else's life looks like.
And if you're wondering if you're going to fall into the category or, like, if you're going to like this book, you just have to read it and find out. Like,
yeah, it's true.
Quite simple.
It's true. All right, so book chapters 1 through 6. I'll get started. So, like she said at the beginning, what we did was split the book in half, and we just went through those chapters and kind of named our biggest takeaways. So I'll kind of lead out the chapters 1 through 6, but you know, if anything, like, sparks your memory, or if you've written down some things as well, it's an open discussion as well.
Sounds
so
good. Before you do,
hey,
live people, don't mind us. The camera's about to die, and I didn't realize.
Oh,
so should I just change that battery quickly?
Yeah, sure. Okay, we're back with a better angle. Instead of just, like, looking off to the side, kind of looking at both at the same time. That'll be good. Okay, so chapters 1 through 6, my takeaways. I don't even know how I'm gonna, like, pick and choose. Let me just see how we're doing on time. It's 2:10. Let's try to end this in, like, 20 minutes. Yeah. So 10 minutes each for these per person. Okay. So, okay. Really quick, I want to go over the titles of each chapter just so you get an idea of how it lays out. So week 1 is recovering a sense of safety. Week 2, recovering a sense of identity. Week 3, power. Recovering a sense of power. Week 4, integrity, possibility, abundance, connection, strength, compassion, self-protection, autonomy, and faith. So we didn't want to go through each chapter because that'll take a while, but that gives you a good idea of, like, what to expect in this book. It covers a lot of ground. So
it does.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, chapters 1 through 6. Let me say, chapters 1 through 6, I was a lot more on fire during this time. Like, I was, like, loving this. I was doing morning pages every day. I was like, I'm getting so much out of these. I was doing an artist date every week. I was really strong during this time. And then life hit, and my car broke down, and I needed to all of a sudden find a bunch of health insurance and other insurances. And I had to adult for a couple months. And like I said, I'm wedding planning as well. So maybe halfway through, I don't know, somewhere in there, I really, like, kind of went down on my enthusiasm in approaching this, but I still read every chapter and still got a lot out of it. But just to be real, like, that was my experience, and I think yours would be.
It was very similar for me, and I think it was very similar for everyone in our book club
as
well.
Yes,
like, engagement kind of
it dwindled significantly.
Which is fine.
It's fine. We get it. We were in the same boat.
Yeah.
But doing it with a book club was really good, especially leading a book club, because it did force us to keep up with it. So I do highly recommend, if you're going to read this book, reading it with at least one other person to keep you accountable would be really good. Okay, enough. Now we're actually doing the takeaways. So one of the biggest takeaways that just starts in chapter 1 and just kind of goes throughout the entire book is an emphasis on your inner child. And she says that your inner child is your inner artist. Like your inner child is an artist. And that's where our creativity kind of comes from. Like that's like the powerhouse behind our creativity. To really tap into that, we have to take care of our inner child by doing things like artist dates, for example. Like a child likes to be spent time with and go do fun things. And so that's like why an artist date is great. And just doing fun little things, like fun, she likes the word frivolous, she used that a lot.
She did.
Fun little frivolous things. Like some of the tasks that she gives in the back of the chapter, some of them involve like going out and doing something. One of the tasks, I guess this was an idea for an artist date that she gave, but she suggested going to the dollar store and just buying like 5 fun things, like under $5 or something like that. Just like what draws your eye, what does your inner child look for? And throughout the book, she just emphasizes, do these fun things that other people may see as frivolous and unnecessary, because it is important and it is necessary to take care of that inner child. I want to share one of my favorite tasks from the book. She has like 10 tasks at the back of each chapter. And it's a lot. She does recommend doing at least half of them. So she doesn't say like, you have to do all of them, but she does recommend trying to do at least half of them. A lot of them are journal prompts, so they're a little bit easier, but some of them are more involved. This one was a little bit more involved, but it was so fun. It was in the back of chapter 1, and it was called Imaginary Lives. And she said, write down like, I don't know, 5 to 10 imaginary like alternate lives. If you weren't living your current life, what else would you be kind of interested in? Do you want to be a scuba diver? Do you want to be a belly dancer? I don't know. Like, do you want to whatever, be a mountain climber? I'm just thinking of activities right now. But anyways, so I wrote down my list of lives. There was like a monk there. There was a gymnast. There was a 1950s artist. I don't know why I wanted to time travel, but so then I chose one of those lives, and I got to kind of lean in to being that person for the week. And I chose the 1950s artist, but at the end of the week I realized, wait, that's literally just me. Like I'm not in the 1950s, but like I'm living an artist's life. And I think by choosing that life, like it was like my inner child telling me, you need more time spent with your art.
Wow.
I realized that's why I was most drawn to this one, because I just wanted more time to paint and like be an artist. So that was my favorite activity.
Wow. It's sort of, I don't know if you've seen that movie Midnight in Paris, but it kind of feels like that. They kind of like time travel back into like, anyway. If you've seen it, you know, but that's what it feels like.
It felt like the Midnight Library.
Oh, yes!
Actually, which if you've seen our book club video, that's one of the books Maryellen recommended. And it's, oh man, we can't get distracted from that, but that's a good book too. And that made me think of the Imaginary Lives exercise. I know I can't go through all of these, and I'm like rambling about each one.
No, it's great.
What else do I want to talk about? Okay, something that, again, was brought out throughout the entire book, but maybe more emphasized in certain chapters, was kind of in line with, like, treating your inner child well, like being self-nurturing, being frivolous, doing things for fun, prioritizing yourself in general. I struggled with that because it feels to me, in some cases, selfish, and I think a lot of people, but especially people who were brought up as Christians, I think it's so emphasized to put others first before yourself. Yeah. And I honestly don't think that's a bad concept. I think that is a good concept. I think Jesus just like demonstrated that for us, but I don't know if it's always portrayed well in the Christian world.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, Jesus also took time to rest and to pray, and like he also took time for himself, and we just for some reason don't see that.
Yeah. And so I did struggle with that, but I think you have to, in a sense, prioritize yourself, because that is where everything that you can give comes out of. Yeah. And so taking care of yourself is not a bad thing. And I think that's something I might just continue to struggle with a little bit, kind of trying to like make that make sense in my head. But
I think it all starts with, like, for me at least, it starts with self-talk, because it's one thing to like put yourself first in a sense of time, you know, this is my time, and that's the easiest thing to let go of, right? You've got like an emergency that pops up, oh, I guess I'm not painting today or whatever. But you really have to start, and I like what there's one creator on Instagram, her name is Amy McNee, at Inspired to Write. I love her.
Oh,
she
yeah.
kind of takes concepts from The Artist's Way, and anyway. And she talks about mothering yourself and how in your morning pages you have to like speak to yourself as though you are a child and be like, wow, I'm so proud of you for doing a really difficult thing. Like, because we often just hate ourselves and are really mean to ourselves and whatever.
Yep.
And if we're mean to ourselves, we're not going to take that time to prioritize our art, right? So we need to like be very compassionate. So that's what we mean by like putting yourself first. Kind of thing.
It's so weird that that's such a revolutionary thing.
Yeah,
like being nice to ourselves.
Yeah.
I definitely loved that though, that emphasis in this book, and it is throughout the entire book. Just like life could be a lot more fun than you think it can be. Prioritize fun, because what else were we put here to do?
Literally, what's the point if you're not having fun?
We're supposed to enjoy nature and each other and like food, like all these things were created for our enjoyment. Enjoy them. Spend time and enjoy them.
Life's short. Enjoy it.
Let's see. Something else that is something she kind of brings up throughout the entire book is the idea of synchronicity. And this kind of taps into a little bit more of the spiritual aspect of this book. Synchronicity, or like, I guess serendipity is another word for that than maybe more people have heard. But it's kind of like when you start looking for things to happen, or you need something to happen and you start noticing, you realize, oh wait, these things are like falling in line for this to happen for me. And you know, she talks about that as being like God or the source or the universe, but we like to say God, like acting in your favor.
And like if you're like, well, I don't really understand, it's kind of like when you're shopping for a car and you want like a yellow Mercedes, and suddenly all you're seeing on the road is yellow Mercedes. Yeah. That's kind of what she's talking about.
Yes, exactly. Or in a very real experience, I went to Texas earlier, a couple months ago, and I really, really wanted to go see this one art exhibit. But it was closed because of the hurricane, which was so sad. And I was really hoping, I was like even praying, like, please let it open for me.
Also, if you want to see that whole story, check out Darcie's most recent vlog on our channel. It's really good.
Yes.
It's really good.
Yes, please go check it out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And unfortunately, it never opened for me while I was there. I was really hoping it would. However, the one day that I had to go out and explore Houston and go see art things, I went to this art museum and I discovered two things. First of all, it had an art exhibit, not the art exhibit I had wanted to see, but it had an art exhibit that I've always wanted to see, like for years. And it just happened to be in Houston. I had no idea it was there. And two, did I start with A? I don't know. A, B, 1, 2, whatever. I discovered that on Thursdays, the day I was there, the museum had absolutely free admission.
That's so wild.
So it was like, you know, it wasn't the thing I had like set out to do, but I almost felt like it was God, like opening. It almost sounds silly to say out loud, but like you can choose to believe that it was just by chance, or that it was something good that God, the universe, God, whatever, was doing for you. And I want to choose to believe that, like, you know, it was a little gift to me. And I feel like that was an example of synchronicity that I experienced.
It's beautiful.
And like the saying, like, leap and the net will appear. You know, if you have a project that you want to do, if you have a dream, whatever, just start taking steps there, and you'll see like things kind of just working in your favor.
Yeah. I experienced that when I quit my full-time job. I was like, oh, I guess the net's going to appear, and it did. And it's just like, you know, you just have to take the leap of faith. And
exactly.
see what happens, so.
I wanted to share this one quote from page 63. Throughout this book, she shares quotes from various other scholars, artists, philosophers, like in the margins of the book. And one of these, it says it's from The Work of the Chariot. I don't really know what that is, but the quote says, when a man takes one step toward God, God takes more steps toward that man than there are sands in the world of time.
Wow.
I thought that was beautiful.
That's so cool.
And that like it describes exactly what she's talking about. Just take one step and like ask for something to happen and believe that it'll happen. Like God wants you to be happy and discover creative satisfaction and realize your dreams. So yeah, so those are, I think I have some more things written down, but I think for me that's good. If you would like to start with chapters 7 through 12.
Chapters 7 to 12. I'll keep it brief. I have a lot of notes. I didn't do as well at summarizing, but I'll just take my favorites. So something that I really resonated with in chapter 7 specifically was, I mean, Julia Cameron talks about it throughout the book, but she really deep dives into perfectionism. And I assume a lot of people watching will resonate with the concept of perfectionism. And often we think it's like a really noble thing to be a perfectionist because we're like, you know, doing really excellent work and we should be rewarded for that and whatever. But she says perfectionism isn't humble as we think it is. It's actually egotism. And it's just us getting in our own way. It's the refusal to let yourself move ahead. And she kind of talks about this idea that, you know, the reason that we want to create, the reason that we are artists is actually for the art itself. And if it's not for the art itself, we're going to have all kinds of issues. And she says that perfectionism is where you have one eye on your art and the other eye is on your audience, and you're like anticipating how they're going to respond or react. And so you often like won't even release work, or you'll like do something that doesn't feel aligned with you because you think that Joe Blow over there is going to like it more, you know? Yeah. So that really resonated. And
really resonated with me too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Another quote that I really liked in chapter 7, she said, "The unexamined life isn't worth living," and we've all heard that before, but the unlived life is not worth examining. Oh.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, Darcie, or you guys watching, but often my weeks look pretty routine, pretty similar, pretty work heavy, and it was just a reminder to me to like play. Because if I don't play and if I don't, you know, document my days in some novel, interesting way, they're just going to get lost and it's just a waste of time.
Yep.
So, yeah, she talks about jealousy a little bit, how it's kind of a map. If you're not really sure where you should be going in life, just think about who you feel most jealous of and it'll probably point you in the right direction. That was
really good point. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So she also talks about this concept of survival a lot, and how a lot of us are just like struggling artists, starving artists, like we might be creating but we're not thriving. And how, so as you mentioned before, Darcie, our inner artist is a child, and we need to nurture our inner child, our inner artist. And so often in the creative space, we can handle a lot intellectually, but we can't handle a lot emotionally. So for example, maybe you have like a book chapter that you want to get approved, or maybe you've made a short film and you get feedback that's really negative, or maybe it's not even negative, maybe it's just not what you expected. And you can process that intellectually, like, okay, well, maybe that's not my audience, and you can rationalize it or think, okay, maybe that's not for me. You know, you can play all these mind games, but at the end of the day, it's actually your emotions that you need to be attending to, and you need to be really honest with yourself and acknowledge the pain that you've experienced, because often we just feel really silly for like feeling pain about something that maybe wasn't even going to go anywhere anyway, or whatever.
And we're like, oh, it's whatever.
It's whatever. Like it does. Yeah, it's not my money making thing. Like it's not my main gig, but that the pain, we just don't acknowledge that. And so getting honest is really what it is.
I really liked that point too. And I think somewhere else she says something about like, you know, as artists, we kind of have a lot to carry emotionally, because our emotions matter so much, and everybody's emotions matter, and especially if you're very tapped into your creativity, I think you'll experience that more. But like when you are that way, when you are very tapped into your creativity, you have to spend almost extra time like tending to those inner feelings and emotions and like your inner state. So there's a lot of emphasis on that throughout this book.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the reality is artists are like usually on the forefront of culture. And so you're saying things and you're doing things that aren't necessarily culturally accepted, and you are going to get more backlash than like a regular job anywhere else. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's really important, as you say. A couple more things. She talks a lot about fear, and I've already mentioned this, like perfectionism, procrastination, blockages, addictions, all kinds of things are all directly a result of fear. And she really emphasizes the importance of calling fear by its correct name. And I really like that.
It hides so often. You're like, I'm not scared.
Oh,
wait, actually.
It's so like, it's such a fundamental emotion that we always like, we stack things on top of it and it gets really complex, but often it's fear. And she talks about a couple of things here, like art itself is often a really rebellious act, whether it's, you know, you're saying things on the forefront of culture that are a bit like spicy, or whether it's just being an artist is something that your parents don't really want for you, or, you know, it's not the safe option, whatever. Often it is an act of rebellion from whatever it is. And so we often feel this need to be really successful really quickly and really disciplined really quickly to prove that it wasn't a mistake and that we're doing the right thing and that we are successful and whatever. And that is kind of a block in and of itself. And so, yeah, just really emphasizing self-care, being playful in your art, and just recognizing that that is often a reality for most artists.
Yeah, because like you said, like the one quote that you mentioned where she said, keeping one eye on your art and one eye on the other person, like that is exactly what that is when you're worried about like proving to people that like you can do this or whatever. Like if you're ever thinking about somebody else when you're acting creatively, you're kind of doing it for that other person, and that can really get in the way of truly letting like God's voice or whatever it is like really come out of you in the most genuine way. Yeah,
that's it. And like that's the thing as well, because it might be great financially in the short run. Maybe you'll make a series of artworks that sell really well because you've had the people in mind. But then ultimately you're going to burn out because it's not really what you want to be doing. It's not sustainable. The only thing that is truly sustainable is what you want to be doing. So it is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably there's so much to talk about.
No, these are great notes. We should like scan these and like make them available.
We could, I guess. Look, maybe the last thing I'll talk about is workaholism, because I think we both really resonated with that. And then we'll wrap up, and then that'll be good. So yeah, she talks about workaholism as being a block or an addiction. And she talks about other addictions, like she mentioned food, alcohol, drugs, sex, painful love, approval, attention. All of these things can be blockages in our creative journey. But she also mentioned workaholism, and I was like, oh, that's my one. And I think
that's mine as well.
Yeah. And she says that pops up when you find that your work is synonymous with your worth, or your productivity is what makes you valuable. That's really, really difficult. And she says, unlike other addictions, like food or alcohol or drugs, it's a process addiction, not a substance addiction. So normally with addictions, you just abstain from it and it goes away eventually, right? In a perfect world anyway. But this is a process addiction, and so it's much more difficult to measure because you ultimately have to keep working, right? You can't just not work completely, and like, what does that even mean anyway? And so she talks about the fact that you really need to be very clear in defining for yourself what overwork is, or what a good week of work or whatever it is looks like from the outset, and sticking to that. And that's something I really am bad at.
Yeah. I think for me, I think maybe I'm trying to think, because I when you say workaholism is like getting your worth from work, I actually have to search for that a little bit. I'm like, is that what I'm doing it for?
Right, okay.
I think, but in a roundabout way, maybe yes, because I am very much a people pleaser, and so like I don't want to let people down. So maybe in a sense, I am getting my worth from other people's approval. For the work I do. Okay. I think that's where I resonate with that. I think. Yeah.
Look, I agree. I definitely resonate with that. I also resonate with just like being productive as a thing. But
oh yeah, for sure. And like when you're told your entire life, like when you're raised in a capitalist society and a productivity obsessed society, and like you kind of the mark of being like a successful or real like adult, real responsible adult is like always being productive. That's harmful to grow up with that. So we're trying to like reset our frameworks. Like,
and that's ultimately what this book does. You know, and I think I definitely want to read it again and again. Like, Absolutely. It's the kind of thing that you will consistently be kind of mind-blown and challenged by.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did want to leave them with one more thing.
Yeah.
Something that I think kind of hit me as I was reading through The Artist's Way this time around was that going back to like the priorities, like prioritizing work, all these things, we kind of prioritize things that are more short-term important. And work is very important, and we're not like hating on work at all. Like that's very necessary. Not only does it help you financially, it also gives you a sense of purpose, and like it contributes to the world. It's important. But ask yourself, what are the things that are going to be with you your whole life? One of the most obvious things is your body. Like you are in this body and this body alone for the rest of your life. Take care of that. Like so often I am putting off exercise because I'm just too busy for that today. I just can't do a walk today. Like I just have to get these things done. And I do that so often. And then I thought one day, like, I'm doing this all for a job that I really care about. And like, oh, my wedding, going back to wedding planning, like, I care about my wedding looking nice. It's very urgent right now because it's coming up very soon. But I'm going to get married and that's going to be behind me. I may not be I probably won't be in this job my entire life. It'll be in my past eventually. But I will always have this body, and it will look the way and function the way it does in 10 years based on how I'm taking care of it now and during that time. And same thing with your creativity. Like, creativity is something that's always going to be inside you, and it will reward you based on how well you've invested in it. And if you've done nothing to invest in it, then in 10 years it'll be maybe around the same place. But if you do, like, spend a little bit of time per day or just per week, or like just start somewhere, per month even, it will be, it will reward you for that time. Mental, spiritual, physical health, like, these are all things that we should prioritize, and we don't, because we put work and more immediate deadlines and expectations before them. So just think about that. That's something that I think about a lot. So
yeah, I don't think enough of us have that, like, long-term mindset. Hey, that's really challenging to me. I'm just dwelling on that. I'm like, wow, I need to fix some things. So, and that's the thing, we all do, and we don't have to be perfect. You can let go of that perfectionism about, like, needing to be a certain way right now. We can see where the goal is, and we can work towards that goal, and we can be okay with ourselves even though we're not at that goal. And honestly, perfectionism is something that is essential to let go of, actually, because if you are perfectionistic about it, skipping a day means, like, not doing it ever again, kind of thing. So,
it's harmful. It's so harmful. So, I mean, any final thoughts?
Look, maybe just, like, we had this conversation very briefly before, and I'll just make it very brief now. Obviously, there's a lot here. And we were kind of saying before, like, oh, is it actually realistic? Like, is Julia Cameron just, like, I don't know, so idealistic that it's not even, like, relevant? And, like, no, she's not. I think there's a lot of really practical things here. Maybe you've listened and you're like, yeah, that resonates, or maybe that doesn't resonate. I don't know, but I really do think that there's value in this book. Regardless of whether you're going to put it into practice or not, it will just reframe your whole perspective. And it might also help you be more understanding or compassionate to, or just, like, I don't know, relatable to creative types if you're not one yourself. Like,
exactly. I think that sums it up well. I think we both recommend this book. We both think you should read it. We are very similar people, so we know we love it. And if you're a very different type person from us and you try it or have tried it, I would actually be so curious to hear about your experience, because we rave about this book. But, like, if somebody who is completely opposite of us tries to read it, I don't know, maybe it'll be a different experience. But for now, I definitely do stand by the idea that this book is for everybody, and you should give it a try if you just want to discover your creativity or reconnect with it. So
absolutely. And thanks so much for joining us, guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us
live.
Our first Passionfruit live. So
and
exciting.
On YouTube later as well. But.
Yes, thank you for dealing on YouTube with the weird camera angles and maybe kind of bad lighting. It looks a little dark, but it might not be that bad. And I'm sorry that we couldn't go live on YouTube. We would have loved to do that, but
if it was tomorrow, we would be.
If it was tomorrow, we would have been able to. Anyways, thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye. Press the X in the top right corner.
Okay, cool.
Bye. And now, there we go. And then share. Yay! We did it. Good job. Good job.
That's blurred.
Excellent. Okay. And then write a caption.
If you have to go, I can do this. It's
okay.
Unless
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Like, join us as we.
Join us for our first live.
Yeah, our first live. Crazy. Like, something like as we go over